So the question is, how do you differentiate between the rehab that you're going to do on a property that you're going to flip as opposed to a house that you're going to hold and rent? There are some key differences and factors to consider between these two types of renovations, and I'm going to go through each of them now so you can be as efficient as possible when rehabbing your next property. From Living Off Rentals, where we believe a high quality rental property is the best investment a person can make. I recently created this video on how to decide on the types of finishes that you should put into your renovation scope of work. If you haven't seen that video yet, I recommend checking it out as a precursor to the information that I'm going to talk about today. If you're excited about rehabbing, give this video a thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on future videos. Also, comment in the comments below and let me know what your biggest rehabbing challenge is so that I can address it in a future video. So why is it that we're talking about flips today when this is strictly a rental investing channel? Well, I did about 70 flips from 2011 to 2016 when I finally saw the light and I flipped over, or switched over, no pun intended, to the rental investing strategy, which is a much better wealth building strategy. However, inevitably, as a rental investor, you're going to be talking to a lot of sellers and you're going to come across deals that would be great flip deals. They're just not going to work from maybe a cash flow standpoint, but they're excellent flip deals. And so you want to be able to take advantage of those types of deals. However, I've noticed over the years that there are a few differences in the type of rehab that you're going to do in a flip property as opposed to a rental property. So first, let's talk about a flip renovation. So the first and most important thing to keep in mind is that whoever buys a flip property, a fully renovated property, is a type of buyer who's moving into their dream home. So, if somebody's gonna go out and buy a fixer-upper, they're not buying their dream home. It's something that they think that they can make into their dream home potentially. But somebody who buys a turnkey, fully renovated property, no matter what the price point, their mindset is that they're moving into their dream home. It's much better than probably where they're living now, and it's a step up into their dream home. So whereas a rehab that you might do on a rental property might be much more forgiving, for example, you might be able to overlook that layout challenge where, the rooms are really sectioned off and it's not this open floor plan. You got to think, is somebody who's going to buy this property, if I'm doing a flip, are they going to be able to overlook that? A renter, much more likely. A buyer, not so much. So the key thing to ask yourself as you're evaluating the property initially, and then also while you're working through the renovation is my end buyer who's buying their dream home going to be comfortable with the end product that we're going to end up with? The second thing to think about when it comes to flip renovations is that they are much less forgiving. I already mentioned that they're much less forgiving when it comes to the end user, a homeowner buying their dream home as opposed to a renter, but they're also much less forgiving financially. If you think about it, if you make a mistake that results in a $5,000 hit to your budget, it's an increase in cost by $5,000, or it's going to decrease the value of what you can sell it for by $5,000, that's pretty painful. You're going to feel that right away. As opposed to on a rental renovation, if I make a $5,000 mistake, I'm most likely going to refinance that property once the rehab is done, and I'm refinancing that extra $5,000 into a 30-year loan. So my payment it's almost going to be negligible on my payment. So I'm really not going to feel that pain as much on a rental property that I'm going to hold for a long period of time as opposed to a flip. The next thing to think about that has been a lesson learned for me over the years is that all of the things that I sort of overlooked or I thought were good enough when I first looked at a property, I thought, that tile might be a little outdated, but it's still in great condition. So I can keep that and I'm going to renovate the other stuff. All of that stuff stands out like a sore thumb once you're done with the renovation. So it looks decent now compared to all the other stuff that's outdated, but once you're done and everything else is new and updated, that thing looks terrible. So I just did it recently on one of my properties because we're all working within a budget, right? And so we need to save money where we can. And so the tile in the master shower was still in great condition. It was probably renovated 10, 15 years ago, and it's been well kept. And I thought it's good enough. And then we changed out all of the other fixtures, we painted, everything else was updated, and that shower tile looked terrible at the end. And so when all the buyers were walking through and were trying to sell this flip, the first thing that they all mentioned was that shower tile. Why wasn't the shower updated? So anything like that, or even on your mechanicals, if you've got a 10-year-old furnace, but yet you're updating the water heater and you're updating all the other mechanicals, that furnace, even though it functions great, buyers are still gonna ask about that furnace and can they get it updated? And then on the inspection, all those items that weren't updated, the inspector's gonna really zoom in on those as well. So just keep that in mind when you're doing a flip renovation, that typically that's why the budgets go much higher on these flip renovations, because you can't really get away with not doing certain items. So now let's talk about rehabbing a rental property. And if you're a recovering flipper like me, then sometimes some of this stuff might be tough to wrap your head around. A lot of the things that you would typically put into a flip renovation actually become costs when you're going to hold that property for a long period of time. So for example, if a homeowner is coming in to buy a freshly rehabbed renovation, they're typically going to want, things like a washer and dryer. A lot of people put a brand new washer and dryer in their properties, and a lot of them are going to expect to have a dishwasher. But these things can become liabilities in a rental property. A lot of times you're gonna pay for a washer and dryer or a dishwasher in a rental property, and then a year later that thing's gonna break and you're just gonna have to replace it. So a lot of these things you can potentially rent the property out and allow your tenant to buy their own, to bring their own. And not only will you not have to replace those items, but a lot of times you'll actually get tenants to stay longer because they don't want to move their stuff around. It fits well in that house and they just want to stay in that house. The second thing to look at when it comes to rental renovations is to think about what's going to hold up the best, as opposed to what might be the most beautiful or sell the best. So in other words, if you're thinking about your cabinet color, white cabinets might be in on a flip property, but if you're gonna hold this property, is it really gonna rent any different if you paint the cabinets a dark color or you get a dark wood as opposed to the white cabinets that are the most stylish? It's probably not gonna change the rent value, but it is going to change how those cabinets are gonna look in the next 5-10 years. Another common area that comes up when you think about items that will hold up over a long period of time is the flooring, because people are walking on the floors a lot. So some people might put in carpets in their flooring, or they might put in ceramic tile, which can crack real easily. Recently, they've made pretty significant strides with vinyl plank flooring. So you could put vinyl plank throughout your entire house. It kind of looks like hardwood, and it's almost indestructible. It's waterproof. It holds up really, really well. So thinking about material choices like that are much more durable oftentimes gives you a much better ROI than thinking about the things that you would on a flip property renovation, where what's going to sell the best and what's the most beautiful. Finally, I would recommend one of your key team members, your contractor, really get dialed in on what your end state goal is with this property as well. So if you're working with someone who might have done a lot of flip projects for you in the past, maybe sometimes they'll just make decisions that would sell better, but they might be a little bit more costly. And on a renovation for a rental property, they just don't need to do that. So if you can explain to them that you're thinking about things like durability and your budget, and that you're not selling this property and that you're going to rent this property, and there's a set rent amount regardless of what type of pretty finish they do or what type of crazy light fixture they put in, you're not going to get more rent for that. Just having that conversation can oftentimes save you thousands of dollars. So there you have it. Those are some of the key differentiators to keep in mind when you're thinking about the differences between a flip renovation and a rental property renovation. Hopefully you're doing a lot more of the rental property renovations. I think you'd be much happier with yourself 5-10 years from now if those are the types of properties that you're doing. But like I said, every now and then you're gonna come across a great flip opportunity. And if you've already got a contractor who's renovating your rental rehabs, you might as well have them do this one as well. If you got value out of this video, I'd love to hear in the comments below what the most beneficial aspect of the video was for you. Also, like I mentioned before, hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. This is a brand new channel and your feedback lets the YouTube algorithm know that we're actually providing value. Also, go over to Facebook and join the Living Off Rentals Facebook group. It's an awesome group. A lot of great investors hang out there. I'd love to interact with you there, and I will see you in the next video.